I will just prompt you, Joel, okay?
We're good to go.
All right, thank you. All right, we have a little technical difficulties this morning. We're running a little bit late. We're going to have our vice chair get the meeting going, and that's Joel Bailey. So first, sir, as always, pledge of allegiance or moment of silence, your choice.
Yeah, I guess since we don't necessarily have flags and we can't do that properly, maybe, am I unmuted? Okay, maybe what we'll do is just take a moment and think about those that we've lost due to COVID and the virus. So if we could just take a moment for that and then we'll reconvene. Thank you. We unfortunately have lost a few people recently at the company, and it's always difficult because they're like family members, as you can imagine. And then I know Herb and some on this call probably know Phil Maynard, who
Yes.
was a titan in our community and a very, very generous man. He passed away with complications from COVID. So those are some of the folks I was thinking about. And I also I think I mentioned before that, called one or two of you that I just think the Summit County Health Department has been doing a phenomenal job. Tanya, we're proud of her, but also Director Skoda. So those are just some of the thoughts. And with that, let's go ahead and get started with the meeting.
All right, we'll
Lisa?
we'll have a roll call next. I'll go ahead and do that. Herb Newman. Joel Bailey.
Present.
Tanya Block. She's not able to join us today. Mark Spizak.
Here.
And Tina Ugrin.
Here.
All right. Next up would be approval of the January previous board minutes.
Okay. I believe everybody's had a chance to review those. I know that I did. Let me ask, is there a motion to approve them?
So moved.
Second?
Herb, all right.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I think I should abstain because I came in halfway in.
All right.
We have 3 ayes. I did Herb's
Yep.
approve.
You
Okay.
did? Yep.
So I think the ayes have it and we're good. Next item.
Very good. The executive director's report is next. And that stands as written. I don't have any presentations in this portion today, unless there are any questions with that report.
Any questions?
I have a point that I have a vast background in soft serve ice cream. My parents had a Dairy Queen when I was 10, and I saw that we're in this agreement with Tabs. So if you need somebody to give some professional interpretation of what's going on there, just call on me.
Excellent. Jen, are you still with us? You're one of these SMPs, I believe.
Yes.
Would you want to just give a quick little rundown of that? That's been really fun to have going on, in the midst of what is not quite as fun as ice cream. So go ahead, Jen.
Sure. So the Acme Fresh Market and Pav's Ice Cream approached us about creating a flavor of ice cream for 2021 to recognize the centennial for Summit Metro Parks and kind of stimulate interest in visiting the park district. So we're working on getting an agreement with them and some packaging, and flavor has been zeroed in on. So still a lot of details to work out, but some very, very exciting prospects there.
We can hear you, Herb.
Herb, we can hear you.
Yep, we heard that.
Now?
Yep.
I just hit a bunch of buttons. I do what I do with my kids. Hit everything and screw it. And it worked, okay?
Herb, I'm turning the reins back over to you, but I wanted to say that what she just told us is they're getting a hip hop group tag team to do an ice cream commercial for us for the Metro Parks anniversary. So it's all yours, Herb.
Thanks a lot, Joel. I really appreciate that. Where are we?
We're at the executive director's report.
Okay, how about anything further in the report, Lisa?
No, it stands as written, sir.
That's it, okay. We don't
Thanks,
have to
Jen.
adopt that. Right? We don't have to adopt that.
We do not.
Okay, how about items removed from the consent agenda? Were any removed?
No, none removed.
None?
None.
Okay. All right. So I guess I move for a ratification for the consent agenda to be approved and the bills.
Second, I second it. If I'm allowed.
On the
You-
motion.
Oh, you want a motion? I'll make the motion.
So Joel B. motion. Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay,
Thank you, Mark.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hearing none, they're all approved. Now, how about, are we moving into old and new business, Lisa?
Yes.
Okay, well, take us there. Any
All
old
right.
business?
We do not have unfinished or old business now, but we do have a piece of new business that we want to talk about today. So we want to discuss our swim operation with you. And in order to do that, Aaron has prepared a PowerPoint so he can share that. And that'll give us some information to kind of inform our discussion. So take it away, Aaron.
All right, so let's see if I can share my screen here. Can you guys see that? Because
No.
You can see nothing.
Give it a second. Ramsey, does he have screen sharing ability? Here we go. It's coming up.
There we go.
There we go.
did that pop up now for you guys?
Yes, but
Yes.
we're seeing your view, the presenter's view. There you go. Hit the swap. There you go.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. So I'd like to start just opening up a conversation around swim parks. And we've been talking a lot about the centennial and our history, and swim parks has played a huge part in that history. Going back to the 40s and 50s when you could swim at Brushwood, Virginia Kendall when it was a park, and then our two parks that we currently have, Silver Creek and Monroe Falls. And if you guys have questions along the way, please jump in. But again, this is an open conversation as we're looking to move into the future, this year and into the future years. But getting back to it, the swim parks, 50 years ago, it was the place to be. A great example was a photo that we had from 1987 of Monroe Falls, where there was probably 10 to 15,000 people, and that was a common crowd on a hot summer day. That trend continued, well into the 90s and to the beginning of 2000. And that's when we started to see a decline and people coming to the swim parks to use the swim lakes. We would still have crowds, but like I said, back in the 90s, the big crowd would be 10 to 15,000. The past 20 years, it's been a large crowd would be 3,000 people. The photo from 2010 was a summer celebration where folks could swim for free, and that was about 2,000 to 3,000. Again, good sized crowd, but overall the trends have continued to decline. This can show you exactly what I'm talking about. To give you an example, in 95, that was the second year Silver Creek had been open for a swim park. Monroe Falls was well established. You know, as you guys know, we took it over from Renner, so it was well established. I think dated back into the 30s. So people that knew that park very well, and you could swim the entire lake. So in the 90s, average combined attendance at both of those parks would be about 150,000 per year. And like I said, that was kind of the norm all through the 90s. And then 2000, the parks started to see a drop in visitation, a drastic drop compared to like 2019, where we didn't even hit 40,000 between the two parks. This trend isn't unique to the metro parks. This is what they're seeing, you know, across the nation, where folks are moving away from the swim lakes and more to chlorinated pools. But people still love the parks. They're just not using it for swimming. When they're coming out, we're seeing them on our hiking trails, biking, kayaking, fishing, attending programs. We've kind of even seen this trend in our picnic areas. So so 2019, we had swimming. So you can kind of see the comparison of how many people were using the swim facility compared to outside of the parks. So decent crowds. Last year, we didn't have swimming. And obviously it was a unique year because there wasn't a lot of things for people to do, especially with families, with COVID going in, but we had record crowds at both of those parks. And so the graph you're seeing was just for that swim season. So they are still using the parks. They're just using them in different ways. Again, getting back to people still love to swim. A lot of times when I'm heading over to Monroe Falls from headquarters, I drive right past Waterworks there in Cuyahoga Falls. The place would be packed. You know, there's people trying to find any blade of grass, you know, to park in. Very similar to what Monroe Falls used to be back when it was very popular. You get over to Monroe Falls expecting to have a crowd, and it's a ghost town. The photo from 2019, it looks staged, but that's an actual day. It was a beautiful summer day, and just people aren't out swimming like they used to be. To give you an idea as to what it costs to operate one of our swim parks, combined is about $250,000 per year. And that doesn't include all the overhead costs. You know, we're not factoring in or including in that $250,000, like the building maintenance, the utilities, any projections for capital improvement or major maintenance. It's basically just the swim operation, and 85% of that is staffing. So when you hear the 250, you know, that's mostly all staffing. So when the park started to see that downward trend in 2000, we started making adjustments to reduce the cost to keep swimming open as long as possible. And it started like Monroe Falls. At one time, you could swim the entire lake, and over the years, that swim area just kept getting smaller and smaller. Same with the swim season. You could swim, you know, Memorial Day to Labor Day, and that season started getting smaller. Some of it was just the challenges with keeping guards. As schools and universities started going back earlier, it was difficult to have lifeguard staff all the way through Labor Day weekend. Other things we did, we closed one day a week. We reduced the hours. All of these changes were trying to reduce the cost to help at least break even or close to even as possible. And there was a significant savings with all these changes, but unfortunately with the downward trend, the visitation numbers are so low that we're not offsetting those costs. So the last 3 years, our losses has been over 50,000 per year. So I think, you know, right now is a good time to discuss what the future is, you know, for our parks as we're moving into our next 100 years. And history is kind of repeating itself. You know, again, the parks was faced with this back in the 50s. Same challenges that we have today: decline in visitation, difficulty in finding lifeguard staff, and water quality issues. You know, all of these we're seeing water quality issues, you know, that we're facing with runoff from area farms causing algae issues, goose population that causes water quality issues, the difficulty in hiring staff. I think a lot of this comes back to where folks aren't using it. It used to be fun back in the day, and I think Baywatch, the movie, added the interest of becoming a lifeguard. And now we recruit. We go. The swim park managers, are visiting schools, and every year they're scrambling, worried whether they're going to be able to get adequate staff. So it would be my proposal that we no longer do swimming, and instead we mimic what we did this past year for the short term, and just to open it up to where we can still do, kayaking, paddleboard, any of the water recreation sports with a watercraft that would be suitable for these two locations, as well as let people fish in areas that they weren't able to do so because it was designated for fishing. Another thing that we would like to do is the dog days. We did this at the end of the 2019 swim season, where we allow dogs to come into the fenced areas off leash, and the owners can, do dog training, throw the ball or frisbee, throw sticks in the water, and let them go in, to retrieve them. It was a huge success, and it was kind of prototyping of what the future may look like. So we would like to, do that again as we're moving forward if we decide not to continue with swimming, and that would give us time to come up with a long-term game plan and go through the entire master plan, where we could ask a lot of the questions is like, obviously we have structures at these two parks, how can they be repurposed? What makes sense as we move into the future? And this would give us the process to get that public input to see what does the public want? Visitation numbers are showing that swimming at one point was highly valued and was being utilized compared to today, where a smaller number is using it. We go through this process, and see all the ideas and flush them out to see, what's in line with our mission, what can we do financially reasonable, a lot of that stuff. There's a ton of great ideas out there. Some of them that have came up from staff of, camping. We've seen that big trend in camping just at Nemesilla, but nationwide is on the uptick. Monroe Falls, we have a potential to connect to the Freedom. There's Nemesilla is another good example where we've seen a lot of people kayaking, paddleboarding, and stuff like that. They still enjoy the water, just in different ways.
I'm bringing Motec.
The Brushwood Lodge used to be the bathhouse. Could we turn it into another lodge? So a lot of good questions, and going through a whole master planning process would be beneficial to the park, and come up with a good long-term plan that the public would utilize and value. So that would be my proposal, and closing swim parks and thinking of new ways to move into the future, but wanted to bring it up to the board and to collect thoughts and questions, concerns, or anything you guys would like to talk about.
Very nice, Aaron. Thank you for that. Let's see, if you want to stop screen share, we can chat
Can I-
about it as a group.
Can I ask a question? So what is your proposal is to migrate to those other activities this year? Is that what you were saying? Let me make sure I understand.
For
Yeah.
the short term, just do like we did in last year, 2020, where we just permit, we keep the fences open. People can still use the areas like it was in the off season, promote, being able to paddle, being able to fish more areas, and then host throughout the summer more of the doggy days, where we can close the fence, put all the signs that we had made up in 2019, and allow them to come in there for to use the area as like a dog park, an off leash area, and then going through that master plan.
You don't need any kind of lifeguard for the paddling or anything then, huh?
That is correct. No.
Okay.
Yeah, they're supposed to have the PFDs on when they paddle, which would be, is that part of the signage, Aaron?
That for part of any of our paddling areas, they would need to follow the state of Ohio ODNR regulations.
Right. So Joel, the thought is to, allow some of these other recreational sports, no swimming this summer. And, that also allows us to begin the public input phase and also do some master planning so that we can really test our ideas from the public and get what their ideas might be too. So, the idea is to discontinue swimming.
Yeah, and this year, I don't think we can amass the lifeguards in time for a season anyway.
It would be more of a struggle than ever. You're right.
Yeah, we usually count on returners, and that was one of the big factors last year, was deciding not to have them, knowing this was going to be a challenge coming into this year. And we've seen this trend. This isn't a new topic. We've been watching it, and again, like last year, we had planned on closing a couple more days to again trying to reduce the cost, because for a lot of us, this is a tough topic because we're all connected to the parks. There's a lot of emotion, a lot of memories, especially with Monroe Falls. But I think it's the time to make this decision.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to collecting some feedback from residents, will we also collect data on the number of folks we see show up for various things, just so we can kind of demonstrate if we see that there's a demand, which of the kind of activities seem to have more demand than others?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be, as soon as we forge into this process in earnest, we will be doing nothing but collecting data. I wanted to point out, but Aaron was on such a good roll. The graphic that he showed with the bar charts, we were basically comparing 19 swim season numbers against 20 no swim with higher numbers. Mm-hmm. So the higher numbers were without the swim. People were using the parks, in other ways. So we actually had more people coming when we didn't have swim open.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's, senior staff have been talking about this for several years. And of course, with the input from our swim park managers and others that have been around a long time. I mean, we come to a point every year where we have to figure out, are we having swim or aren't we? Because like you said, we have to start early to get our lifeguards, and earlier really hasn't been any better the last few years. And our returners, oh, go ahead, Herb.
So with all the COVID, I'm trying to get a sense of forget whether we want swimming or not. With all of this transmission of viruses, et cetera, is this, if we didn't do anything, would this bring more people, or would people just reject getting in the water with other people? I'm asking a practical question. To me, all these swimming holes are communal nightmares. So, right. So is there anybody that really is going to want to swim this year anyhow, or any year from now on? Is this upside down in my head? I believe that nobody will get in the water.
Well, I think that this summer would be just like last summer. I don't know that we're going to be ready to be able to even open swim.
My opinion is, as soon as you tell people they can't, they'll want to. But I mean, I see the numbers. I get it. I think that the time has come to visit it. But I think we got to be careful not to get out in front of the public on it. And I think that they'll understand not doing it this year, and have some public input and let them be part of the decision. Otherwise, it looks like, man, you just passed this levy and you got all this money and you're cutting back services. I know what the numbers say, but I'm a little personally concerned that, I mean, honestly, like my last day of swimming was over decades ago, like public swimming, but I have a granddaughter and she might want to go and I might have to take her, so I'm just a little afraid that once you tell people they can't, there will be a different reaction. But I think we have time to work through that. So those are my thoughts.
Joel, I think that's a good idea. We have a unique opportunity not to have swimming this year for obvious reasons, right?
Right.
Yes, we're on the same
Oh.
page.
If we say we're not gonna, and I think Joel hit it, if we say we're not gonna have swimming this year, this will give us a chance to collect data and ask
Input.
our constituents what they think for the future.
Absolutely.
Because I don't know if they'll think like me or they'll think like you, Lisa. You want to go swimming and I would never. I mean,
Well,
Go
the
ahead.
conversations we have had in staff really always revolve around, we want to be very careful to not take something from the public without giving something great back.
Mhm.
And we've got, we did basically a hackathon, which is where we had groups of teams several years ago. We came together and said, let's just daydream what could these parks be if there was no swimming? So we started very, very early on, reinventing conceptually what these parks could become. And even 3 years ago, I mean, we have different ideas now than we did because certain things are popular now that may not have been 3 years ago. But we see the potential at being able to offer to the public some great things that would be a trade-off to the swimming. So we want to be very, very sensitive to that.
Mhm.
So where's
Perhaps
this
then, sorry, go ahead, Herb.
No, go ahead.
I would say perhaps then we've got this opportunity. We've got now 2 years of data plus the past data of what you guys did with the hackathon. Next year, if Aaron came back and presented publicly to us again, and we talked about, okay, not only to see 2 years of data, but also what are all the ideas that were generated, what worked, what didn't, and then we can present that. And that's something I think that we then start packaging so that when we roll that information out, if it looks like we're going to suspend swimming indefinitely, that the public has an idea of what that looks like and what the opportunities are.
Agreed. Yeah, that. We're all on the same page. We'd like to do that.
Cool.
Mhm. Very nice job, Aaron.
Gina, we're not interrupting your workout, are we?
Herb, I knew you were going to tease me. Joel was trying not to tease me because he also works on it, but he'll take off the video. I think the video is important. You should see that someone's walking while I'm listening.
Oh, go ahead. All right, where are we? So what?
So it
Go
sounds
ahead.
like there's consensus that we will not have swim this year, and we'll use this year to engage the public and see where it goes.
Yeah, I think this is a logical year to say no swimming, and I think everybody will buy into that without asking a question.
That's in line with what your thoughts were. Yes, Aaron?
Yes, yep, and that was the point of the conversation. It was not always just to look at the numbers, but again, this is, it's something that's been around a long time, and we want to.
Okay, so we have a consensus. Is that a consensus of the board that there's no swimming this year, and we're going to use it as a time to not only have bar charts, but have ideas, even some of them coming from our constituents, as to what they would like to do in lieu of swimming,
Yes.
right?
Very
Okay.
good.
All right.
All right. Thank you for that. Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron.
All right. I think, Herb, if you're ready, we can go on to the next section, which is correspondence and public portion.
Okay, so do we have any correspondence?
I don't believe we have
Wait,
any,
is
none this
Bridget
month.
here?
And Bridget is here.
Okay, well, she's part of our public. Hi, Bridget, how are you?
Hi, here I am.
Okay, why don't we start with you?
Well, thank you. We have been continuing to work with the community engagement on supporting technology and equipment needs. So working very closely with Dee on that and helping to fund some of those to make those programs as good as they can be for the public. And then the other thing that we're working on right now is putting a plan together for all of our events and fundraisers. Again, working with community engagement on doing several different virtual programs. A lot of organizations and nonprofits are doing that. That would be fun, and also, maybe a delivery of something to their doorstep or a pickup, or we're still working those details out, but thinking about doing those quarterly, while also hoping that we may have some sort of in-person event in the summer, though we're not, putting all those eggs in that basket right now. And that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
That sounds
Thank
good. Can you give us a teaser of one of these events?
The virtual?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I will give a little idea, having a conversation with both Dee and Victoria about it. It looks like we're sort of heading towards aligning with your centennial in terms of the priorities, the 4 different priorities, and trying to focus on that as like, you know, the theme for each one. But also probably doing, you know, Jeopardy style, or, you know, something that
Oh,
seems
fun.
like it's fun for people to do,
Mhm.
game type things that we think will be really fun.
Oh, that sounds great. Thinking outside the box. Good job.
Thank you, Bridget.
Our pleasure.
Any other public business? Any correspondence, Lisa?
No, not this month.
That's because the post office isn't delivering any.
We may have, it just hasn't gotten here yet.
Yeah, right. All right.
All right, very good. So we do have executive session this month.
Yes, we do. And let me see if I can read that for you, Lisa. Got to be in here somewhere, right?
It's the biggest page.
Oh, executive session. Here it is. See how fast I can read this. I ask for a motion that the Board of Park Commissioners adjourn to executive session to consider appointment, employment, discipline, investigation, promotion, demotion, compensation of Summer Metro Parks employee ORC 121.22, purchase of property for a public purpose pursuant to 121.22, to confer with counsel concerning disputes that are subject of pending litigation and imminent litigation pursuant to 121.22 G3, and to prepare discussions with public employees concerning terms and conditions of employment pursuant to, you guessed it, 121.22. Following discussion, it was moved by
Me.
you and second by
Tina,
Tina, that the Board of Park Commissioners adjourn to executive session. Roll call.
Herb Newman,
Yes. Joel Bailey.
Yes.
Tanya Block, absent. Mark Spisak.
Yes.
Tina. Tina.
Ugrin, yes.
Ugrin. You're not exhausted? Okay, yes. All right.
all right.
Motion is carried. We're now in executive session.
Ramsey, if you will suspend recording.